Howdy y'all, it's Marina Ray. Today I'm coming at you guys from a more chill spot in my house. I'm currently moving my setup around once again because I have a bookcase on the way. My current bookshelves are just like full. There's no room to add any more books, and I have books coming in the mail, so I had to purchase another bookcase, and it's on its way here as well as all those other books I bought. So right now we're in the middle of setup transformation, I guess you could say. I don't know. I'm just going with it. It's where my desk is, so I'm sitting. I feel like Philip DeFranco right now, to be honest with you, but we'll fix it. So as you guys know, I've been trying my best to come up with ways to be more creative in regards to my channel and just to make creative and original content, but yet I also do want to keep it like your average Booktube channel. The only thing about it is I'm used to doing wrap-ups, I'm used to doing TBRs by now, the tag videos, but what I'm not good at in regards to Booktube is reviewing books. I'm not a very articulate person. I really struggle with talking about books. One, because I was never really good at literature or anything like that in school. And then also when I chose to put my career on hold and come home to be a homeschooling mama, I talk to 4-year-olds all day long. So my communicating skills have decreased. Literally, I have to break down everything I say to where a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old can understand it, and that's my day-to-day basis. I talk to them more than I talk to anybody, including my husband. So of course, I'm going to end up permanently simplifying what I say. So, all that being said, I bet you guys are like, what the crap, Marina? Get on with the video. All that being said, I really want to get better at reviewing books. I really want to become more literate. I really want to better articulate myself. That's a goal of mine. As being a booktuber, I really want to learn how to articulate myself better so that I can review books and review them in a way that's enjoyable for me, but also for you guys to watch. I don't want you to think that you're subscribed to somebody that's completely illiterate or anything like that. It's just reviewing books, talking about books is something that I do struggle with, and in order to get better at that, I really need to practice more at it. So therefore, to practice more at it means you guys will be getting more book reviews, which I hope you guys will be happy about, because I know myself, I have seen the review area of BookTube kind of diminish quickly. There's not many review videos that are being made recently, and it's kind of just turned into tags. And I'm not saying anything bad about that, because I myself enjoy doing a tag every once in a while. You guys will know on my channel I don't do them very often. And I also enjoy watching tags. Tag videos are really fun. They're very informative a lot of times. You learn new things about the people you're subscribed to, and I enjoy that. I'm not saying anything bad about that. But I do like watching review videos. I do like watching recommendation videos and just book discussion videos. Even though I myself am not good at them yet, I enjoy watching people, even people who aren't as articulate as a lot of the other booktubers. So all that being said, today's video is a review of Extraordinary Means by Robin Schneider. Now this came out a few years ago. This is only the second book that I've ever tabbed, ever. I read this via physical book, but I also read a lot of it, as you can see, that isn't tabbed. I read that on ebook, but I tabbed the heck out of this. I highlighted the heck out of the ebook. I went to town annotating, because that's something I also want to begin doing, is annotating my books, because I feel like that will enhance my reviews immensely. So let's just get on into this. So Extraordinary Means is a YA contemporary romance. And we'll get into everything in regards to the plot and everything in a minute, but I just wanted to go ahead and say, going into this book, I did not expect this book to be such an impressionable read for me. Knowing the synopsis of this book, knowing my taste in reading, there was no indication that this was going to be anywhere near a 5-star read for me. I ultimately picked this book up because I was in a contemporary mood, and I just wanted to pick up a contemporary with a kind of twist to it, and this book definitely had a twist to it. I definitely wasn't expecting to rate this book 4 out of 5 stars. I give it 4 stars on Goodreads, and I will tell you why here in just a second. With all that being said though, this book definitely still had its problems. I found problems within the plot, problems within the characters. There were quite a few problems. But before we get into that, let me give you guys a quick rundown of the book in case you're just stopping by to basically hear the synopsis. which I do sometimes with book reviews, to kind of get a feel if it's something that you would be interested in, if it's something that intrigues you or piques your interest. I do that sometimes with book review videos as well. In this book, we follow our two main characters, Lane and Sadie. Lane and Sadie both find themselves in a sanatorium/retreat for those diagnosed with drug-resistant tuberculosis. Obviously, we know this book is fiction because tuberculosis has been treatable since the early 1950s-ish. That was obviously the twist that I was kind of looking for when I was looking to read a contemporary. The author does go a lot further into that in the author's notes section towards the back of the book, and I would definitely encourage anyone who would to read that because it has quite a bit of information about TB, tuberculosis, the nurse coming out of me, some interesting information on the history of tuberculosis, and how it also relates to the theories of vampires, which that was some fun information to learn. I almost enjoyed the author's notes more than I enjoyed the book. But I mean, we follow these characters, and we get to see how these 16 and 17-year-olds deal with having a terminal illness, and in the meantime still forming these really strong emotional bonds with one another. Now, this book does have pros, but I feel like the cons outweigh the pros. And I'm sure you're like, Marino, the cons outweigh the pros? Why did you still give it 5 stars? I thought you said you enjoyed this book. I did. But remember, I'm not a very critical reader. I read for fun. I just enjoy the action of reading. And the plot can be terrible, but if you snag me on the characters, then 9 times out of 10, I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to rate it a little bit higher than I would if the plot fell and the characters fell. But the pros are, number 1, it's genuinely humorous at times. It's funny. It had me laugh out loud a few times, so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It also has characters that you become extremely invested in. I enjoyed the characters. I know with a lot of the reviews on Goodreads, the people said that they could not get invested with the characters. I did get invested in the characters, and while they weren't the greatest characters ever created, in my opinion, they were still unique, and I still enjoyed reading about them. I definitely wanted to add that as a pro because it did have some really enjoyable characters. And then the third pro is it's just a really intriguing, unique concept. I've never seen a book with a synopsis quite like this. Granted, I don't really look for synopsises like this, so I don't know how many are actually out there, but I've never seen one, and this was a new kind of concept for me, and it was really interesting. However, the cons are oftentimes the humor comes across as cheesy and cringeworthy, and it just makes you kind of cringe. A lot of times it kind of just fell flat for me. The second con is while it is an intriguing thought and an intriguing concept, there are a lot of plot holes. And the third con is while I really became invested in the characters also irritated me. A few main characters were just really irresponsible and unlikable and inconsiderate. I just don't like it when people come across as really inconsiderate, and this book has one character in particular that is really inconsiderate. So in regards to the humor, we have this humor that kind of spreads itself throughout the book, and at times it is funny, but at times it's not. It's kind of just like, oh, you tried to make that funny and it was not funny. There's cute puns, yet there's cheesy dialogue, and it doesn't even out. It's actually more so not enjoyable than it is enjoyable. However, the humor between this particular group of people is actually really funny and cute, and I did enjoy the humor between them. It's just the humor outside of that I was like, oh. With all that humor though, you kind of find yourself forgetting how scary the plot is and how scary the possibility of a strain of TB actually developing like this is. That thought is really scary. It's always a possibility, so that makes it really kind of realistic. With that being said, there's a particular incident within the beginning of the book that really opens your eyes and is like, wow, we're not playing here. These kids are actually really sick and they could potentially die from this. It makes you really realize what's at stake for these teenagers, and you begin to look at them kind of in a different light, and you find the humor not really playing a big part in it. Now it's become you wanting to find out what happens to these teens and if they make it or not. I feel like the author tried to lighten the mood with the humor a lot of times, and it just fell flat and didn't work. With a book like this, it takes a lot to lighten the mood, especially in particular points of the book, and I just feel like she sometimes tried to lighten the mood with a pun or a joke in the middle of a sad scene, and it just didn't mesh very well, and it destroyed the purpose of that sad scene. That sad scene was to get you more invested and to get you to care more about these characters. And when you throw a pun in the middle of it, you can't really laugh and you can't really feel bad. You're kind of in this weird area where you're like, I don't know how to feel, and I'm not really enjoying that. It just felt forced, flat, and weird in general. I definitely had a bad taste in my mouth from the cheesiness in this book. Also, a lot of parts in the book were written very vaguely, and I had to often find myself reading between the lines to try to get an understanding of what was really happening. That was a less enjoyable part of the book as well. The characters, one in particular, like I said, was really irritating. That whole entire character just irritated me to the bone, because she made some really inconsiderate choices. She made some decisions that not only put herself at risk, but the health of others at risk as well, and it just made me mad. But later on in the book, you kind of find out why she makes those decisions, and while those decisions aren't validated, in my opinion, I still get a better understanding of why she did that, and I don't dislike her as much now as I did at the beginning and the middle of the book. One plot hole, I guess you could call it a plot hole, is I'm seriously confused as to how the staff at this sanatorium doesn't get infected and isn't put at risk for being infected. I don't understand that. There's these people that just work there and they can be around these teens and it doesn't seem to faze them, and that's just weird to me. It did mention that a lot of the staff there had to stay there because they couldn't find a job outside of the sanatorium because everyone was scared because they had worked in the sanatorium, but nobody from the staff they all seemed scared to be around the contagious, but they never caught it. So I was just like, you're okay, this disease is obviously extremely contagious, not only from realistic standpoint, but in the book it even considers itself as really contagious. So how are we doing this? How are you living? How are you not getting, how are you not getting TB? That's just confusing. I just don't get it. The book honestly didn't clarify anything on that, so I was just left with, huh? This book, though, has a ton of Harry Potter reference in it. It is crazy. Literally, they refer to the sanatorium as Hogwarts at one point. And I get it's to kind of add a little bit of, like, Easter egg humor in there and to kind of, to not really remind themselves that they're in a sanatorium. But, like, Harry Potter mention was just filtered through this entire book. All that being said, I did really enjoy this book because the author does create some really good characters and a story that you become absolutely invested in. I became invested in them, but I wanted them to be okay. I wanted things to work out for them. So she did a good job at doing that. She really did do a good job at creating a unique story, but I feel like the story could have went further and could have potentially been better. Also, like I said, not all the funny parts were cheesy. A lot of times it was genuinely funny. So that was also a reason I give it 4 stars. Not everything regarding the TB was confusing, just there were some things like regarding the staff that was confusing and why they didn't get it. But a few things were explained and it ended up being not totally confusing but still confusing. I really just didn't have to force myself to read this. I really read it and I enjoyed it. It took me a few days, but I'm also in the middle of a bunch of other books, which I usually don't do, but I'm doing right now. And so I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I will definitely be picking up The Beginning of Everything, which is another book by this author. I also think that she does a really good job with her covers. They're kind of simple yet different, and I like that. But yeah, guys, I give this book 4 out of 5 stars. Do I recommend it? Yes. Unless a lot of the things that I mentioned within the cons turned you off. If any of those things turn you off, then don't read it. I really don't think that you would enjoy it. But if you're like me, where you're a more character-driven reader and the plot does play a part within your rating, but it's not completely your rating, then I would definitely read this. It was fun and I enjoyed it. Real quickly before I go, I want to give you guys my featured booktuber for this video. This video I'm featuring Sarah from Novel Serendipity. Sarah is the best. She's a booktuber that I can talk to and it doesn't come across as strained. It doesn't come across as like forced. We can just hold a little conversation here and there, and it's just fun, and that's what I look for in people and in friends. And she just, guys, go check her out. I'm telling you guys, you won't regret it. She is sweet. She's a sweetheart, and I love her dearly. So go check Sarah out over at Novel Serendipity. I think that's how you say that. I will see you guys later.